Supercharged testing, AI-powered workflows with Playwright and MCP. Let's dive in. So a little bit about me. My name is Debbie O'Brien. I'm a principal program manager at Microsoft. And my main job is ensuring the Playwright community is amazing, which it is, and telling you all about the cool things that Playwright does. What is Playwright? Playwright is a test automation framework, but thanks to AI, Playwright has just been booming lately, and we're going to dive into that in the talk. I'm an international speaker, teacher, YouTuber, open source contributor. You've probably seen me all over the web, and I absolutely love sport. I used to just take my bike and go to the mountains and spend 3 hours cycling a day, but now I've got two twins, and so I spend my time pushing them on the bike. I'm getting back to sport. It's hard, so all those working mothers out there and working dads as well, life is hard when you got little ones, but that's okay. We've got to find the time and still get out to do that sport. So that's my mission, is to make sure you're all not just sitting at your desk, but you're getting up and doing sport as well. And yeah, I'm involved in all the programs below. And if you want to know more about those, do let me know. Let's dive in. So I'm going to just go straight into it and just talk about Playwright Agents. But before I do, let me just take a step back. We're here to talk about MCP, right? So this is a little bit confusing because there's a Playwright MCP, and many of you have probably seen it and probably know about it. Like, what does Playwright do? It automates the browser. So what does the Playwright MCP do? It allows the LLM to automate the browser and do things. So I've got some videos out there where I went shopping with the Playwright MCP, filled out forms, do kind of some cool things. Now, that is the Playwright MCP, and we've been talking about that for quite a while now. Today, I want to talk about Playwright Agents, which is a little bit different, okay? It's a separate product. I want that to be very, very clear in your mindset when you think about this. We're not talking about the Playwright MCP. We are specifically focusing on testing. The Playwright MCP is great for browser automation, and you can totally use that, and it is totally cool. And especially if you're like saying, you're prompting and you're creating stuff, you could, ask it to do something, and then in the LLM say, verify that it works using Playwright, and you can have the Playwright MCP do all that. Again, I'm going off topic. That's totally cool. Let's dive into the agents, because that's what we're really here for. So what has agents got to do with the Playwright MCP, or with MCP in general? We will get to that. First of all, let me just tell you what an agent is. So Playwright now comes built in the latest version of Playwright. Playwright comes built in with these Playwright agents out of the box. They are called Planner, Generator, and Healer. Now, I'm giving this talk right now, but maybe by the time you're watching this talk, we're going to have a couple of changes. So little minor details will change, and I'll go through a little bit of that. So you might see in this presentation that I've got the little icon and Planner, and coming down the line in the next couple of days, we'll be releasing, and it will just say Playwright Planner or Test Planner along those words, but it means it's the same thing, okay? So these agents, they can be used independently, sequentially, or as a changed calls in an agentic loop. So that basically means you can call the planner and just create a test plan. So first of all, what do they do? Let me explain. So the planner basically explores your app. You can just tell it to go to my application and find out things to test. Maybe you don't even know where to get started when it comes to testing. That's the cool thing, right? You might not know where to get started. Or you might have a specific feature you've just added to the site, or there's something that's really not working great. You can just tell the planner and guide it in that direction. And then it's basically going to explore your app by opening up a browser. It's going to start navigating, clicking, and doing all the things that a user would do, like a manual tester would do, to kind of play around with the site, get a feel for it. And then it will write a markdown file with a test plan. It's going to basically say, these are the things that I think should be tested based on me using the site and what I see the site does, right? That's kind of cool. Then you call the generator agent. The generator agent is going to be fed the test plan. So now it knows it has a good plan, it has a good structure, so it knows what to test. And it's going to go ahead and start using the site like a user would and go through that site and basically start generating those tests. And I'm going to show you a demo of this. So I'm going to go hands-on and show you that in a few minutes, but I just really want to make you understand how it's working first. And then we have the healer agent. And the healer agent basically is going to be called when some of those tests do not pass. Because yes, AI is amazing, but it doesn't always give 100% perfect test results. And there's reasons for that. Some of them are good reasons and some of them are bad reasons. And the healer there is to find out what's going on. what's going on in your application, what's going on in this test, and it will it has debugging capabilities and stuff. And again, we'll go to the tool calling, what each agent, what kind of tools it specifically has, so you get an understanding of what the agents can do. But the healer will basically heal those. And it's not that kind of like, it's just going to make sure everything's green. It doesn't do that. It heals them. It tries to make sure everything is green if it possibly can. And if it cannot, because it thinks it's an application bug, it will tell you so, and it will mark the test as fix me. And that's really, really important to know. So, all that out of the way, that's the nice short introduction. There's a video as well. This is actually a screenshot of the documentation page. There is a video in there explaining it, so you can go ahead and watch that video as well. And like I said, I'll come back to this. I said it can be called independently, sequentially, or as a chained calls in an agentic loop. So basically, you might already have tests that are just, some of them are failing. You can just go ahead and use the healer agent. You might already have a test plan. You can just go and use the generator agent, right? So it's up to you. You can start from the beginning and use all three. And if you've got an agentic loop going, you can, chain them on and get the loop to just keep going one after the other. After you've done this, do this, do this, do this, do this, etc. So lots of cool things, I know. So basically how it works, and I'm going to show you this in VS Code, but this also works in Claude and in Open Code. And I have heard people have got it working in Cursor. So we don't have a specific line of code to let it build you these in Cursor, but you could totally just try it out and figure that out for yourself. But basically, the three that we primarily support is VS Code, Cursor, and Open Code. And that's in the documentation, it will show you the loop that you need to, the npx command that you need to use to run that. And yes, speaking of the npx command, this works for TypeScript only. I know, I'm really sorry about those Python fans out there and all the other fans out there. We do not have, at the moment, support for anything except TypeScript, but keep filing issues and upvoting issues if you're looking for support for other languages. Okay, so when you use the VS Code loop and you basically run the npx command to install the agents, obviously you've got Playwright at the latest version. This is what you'll get. You'll get a planner, generator, and healer. And again, I said, watch this because I'm showing you this with the emojis. This is going to change in the next couple of days, and you'll see something, maybe just text, and it'll be Playwright Test or Test Planner or something like that. And what you'll see is down inside VS Code, when you go to the chat mode, you open up chat mode and you go and click on the agent link there at the bottom, you'll be able to see those new agents, and you'll be able to just call them whenever you want to call them and just switch between them as you wish. So let's go ahead and see this in action. So I've got a video here recorded, and I'm going to select the planner mode. And I'm just writing in here, generate a test plan for managing movies list. And you can see that browser just popped up there, just like you would normally see Playwright do, right? But it's the LLM opening that browser, not me. And that's kind of really, really cool. So here it is. That was like really super fast. I sped that up a bit because I didn't want to spend time just going through that. I really just want to show you it. Here's the generate the test from the test plan. So now I've fed in that test plan, generating that, and then here it's going through all those tool calls. And I'm going to go through those in a few minutes, so don't worry. But I just want to show you kind of an idea of what's going on under the hood. And now you've got their tests have just been created, and then you can go and call the planner or the healer agent and say run and fix those tests, and it will then go ahead and again spin up the browser, go through it, run it in debug mode, figure out what's going on, and then basically go ahead and modify that code and say, hey, this is what I found, this is the issue, and then you go ahead and run that test and bang, everything passes. Whew. That was the fast version. Now, let me just tell you, I sped that video up for a reason because I really want to tell you so much about it, and I don't want you have to going through and watching step by step as we go ahead and kind of, watch it do all its thing. These are not fast, and I'm not selling you fast. I just showed you something fast because I sped it up. It's not a fast, like in 2 minutes, you're going to have 100 tests. That's not what it is, right? Sometimes, especially if there's a lot of things going on, sometimes it's going to take a bit of time. It could take 25 minutes, and that's why I didn't do the slow version here, because it could take up to 25 minutes just to generate the tests. But you could totally just walk away. And that's the kind of cool thing. You could totally just walk away once you've got like the allow all those tools to be called, and I normally actually run it in headless as well, so it's not coming up and showing me all that in the face. And I walk away, have a sandwich, come back, and then I've got all these tests. And then I just call the next agent. It's actually just really cool. So don't be discouraged by the fact that it can be slow, because that's actually good because it's doing things correctly, right? Rather than just like, hey, this is magic, because there's no magic here. It's not magic. So let me just quickly show you. This is how you do it, right? You run the command npx playwright init-agents -- loop equals VS Code or equals Claude or equals open code. They're the three that we have the loops for. If you're using something else, again, just, maybe run that with the VS Code and it will create it in the folder structure, how VS Code expects it, and then just modify it to whatever you're using, right? But this is what we recommend. Now, again, a couple of changes here because the latest version of VS Code was released yesterday. So this talk is like, everything just keeps changing, I know. So now instead of chat modes, it's actually an agent folder. Now, I left this as it is in the slides because as of today, we're still generating the chat mode folder for you, and some people might already have that generated. So I wanted to just be clear on that. It will still work because VS Code has a thing that it's just going to work or whatever, but you might see some squiggles underline and it might say chat mode, or it might say like, I don't know, use agents or whatever. So just keep an eye on that. But from, I don't know, when the next release we have coming out, we will, when we run this loop with this command, we will generate a agents folder, and it will be called Playwright Test generator.agent.md. Okay, so chat modes has changed to agents in VS Code. And then you're obviously going to see that in Claude, it's actually already agents. So that's already out of the box working. So this is working, obviously, but just keep in mind that, there's a couple of changes there. And it will also write an mcp.json file. So you see, you're here for the MCP. You're like, why are we talking about agents when I'm here for an MCP talk? Because the Playwright Agents comes with an MCP built in under the hood. It's like you don't have to go and install an MCP. So you don't have to think about, do I need to install the Playwright MCP server to be able to use the agents? No. You don't, because it's a different MCP server. Now, I want you to be very clear on this because I think it's really confusing. Playwright MCP is for browser automation. That is still a cool tool to use, and it is there, and you can install that and use it. You can even use it alongside these. But the agents are going to call tools from a Playwright Test MCP server, not from Playwright MCP server, from Playwright Test MCP server. And we give that to you out of the box with this .vs code folder, mcp.json file, and that's where you can go in and you can actually see how that works. So Playwright Test MCP server is what we're using for the agents. And then we also give you a seed file, and this is how we think you should set up your test structure. Have a seed file, because everything you put in that seed file will be copied into every test that gets generated. So think of maybe you want some setup, some database seeding, or just like, using page fixtures to make sure you get to a specific point in the page and you want that copied in. You could be using, I don't know, POMs. You could be using some other things like, adding utilities and things like that. So you can do all that kind of things. So seed is the first thing you start with, but you could just leave it empty, totally fine, and then nothing gets copied in, right? So it's just there to help you. Should you need it, should your architectural skills and the site you're working on need a bigger kind of setup. So we're here to talk about MCP. Here is your MCP file. So the MCP JSON, just as you would expected, there's your servers, and this is all created for you. So I'm just going under the hood to show you, but you don't need to know anything about this. It's just there and it just works. But as you can see, it's called Playwright Test, and it's Playwright Run Test MCP server, and in that args ARGS there, that args in that array where you have Playwright Run Test MCP server, you can just add another thing in there and put -- headless. If you put that in there, then you're not going to have that browser window popping up, but the LLM still is able to see the browser and do everything exactly the same, just like it would do in CI. So just like we run our tests in CI. So it works exactly the same, just we are not going to see a user interface. So we're not going to see that browser. And that's great for when you're just like kind of getting a lot of work done and you don't want something popping up in your face. So I have my agents, all my Playwright agents working in the background, and then I just check on them later. And I'll show you how we can check on them in a few minutes. So seed, again, the seed file, this is basically just your basic one that's the default one that's given to you. And you can just completely leave this blank and just get on with writing your tests, or you can seed something should you need to. Here's an example that I use with fixtures, and this is in my my repo for my movie tests. You can totally check out that repo. And basically here, I'm just basically using the Playwright fixtures, and I've created a list page. This is a movies application where you go and you sign in, and then you basically create a list of your movies, that your favorite movies or whatever. And instead of constantly going and like to test all the features when you are in a logged in state and have a list of movies, so instead of like each test, like the delete movie, add a movie, all those kind of tests, imagine every single test had to like go create the movie list, add 3 movies, and then started like, okay, let's see if the delete works. Let's see if adding a new movie works. Let's see if, like, we just want to get to a specific state and then test the rest of the things, right? We don't have duplicated code, and this is why we use fixtures here. And I've got a list page. So I've got one test called list page, which is a fixture, and that gets me to that state. And then I just feed that in instead of where page is. I'm feeding in the list page. And then I basically said, instead of saying page, I'm going to make my page equals to the list page. So every time in these tests, now if I'm generating different tests that do not need a movie list, then I wouldn't use this. I would use it something else or just leave it blank. But for this particular use case, I need a movies list with a list of movies, and I'm going to use the list page. And that line of code, const page equals list page, is going to be, obviously copied into the test so that everything basically then uses that list page. So that's how you do fixtures. Think about seeding databases or anything else, or before each that you need to run, etc., etc. So don't worry if that's a little bit too complicated for you. Don't worry, because you don't need to do anything with seeds to get started. So just think about for the advanced use cases for this one. Okay, let's dive into the Playwright Planner, and I want you to understand the Playwright Planner a little bit, especially because I've seen a couple of videos out there where people think that they're running the right Playwright Test agents, and they're not, and they're using the other Playwright MCP server, and it's a little bit confusing. So I want to just make sure that you understand how things get called. So here's my planner, and this is just a basic prompt I put in. Generate a test plan for the movies list feature and use any utility. This is important. Use any utilities to reuse code if needed. So I have some utilities like add a movie. So if I wanted to add another movie, which involves like clicking a button, clicking the add movie button, selecting a movie and putting it in, right? I don't want to test that specific feature. I just wanted to add the movie. And if I'm adding movies on like say 10 different tests, I'm better off using utility, one function, one basically add movie function that I can just pull into all my tests. So I'm putting this in my prompt. And see the way I've attached in my prompt, list utilities.ts file. That's my utilities, my add movie, and there's about 5 of them in there. I can't remember them all. So anytime you have a utility, something that you want to reuse code across your tests, add it into your prompt at the planner stage. Really important, at the planner stage. I wouldn't have thought of doing it at that stage. I would have thought the generator, but no, at the planner. So put it in the planner. And then I basically said to save the test plan in the specs folder as movie list plan. So you can be explicit just to make sure it does things right. And for this demo, I use Claude Sonnet 4.5. Just make sure you're using a model that supports MCP servers, because it is going to call the Playwright Test MCP server under the hood for you. That's all you need. That's it. Bang, done, right? So what goes on? What happens? Well, the planner starts to get to work, and it runs the setup planner page tool. If you do not see this tool being called, then something went wrong. Something went wrong and you didn't activate something, or something. If it just opened up a browser and started navigating, something went wrong. The first thing that the planner has to do, it has to run the setup planner page. And you will see there, Playwright Test MCP server, not Playwright MCP server, Playwright Test MCP server. This is specifically for testing. Now you can see I've clicked on that little arrow there to be able to see what's inside it, but you won't see that unless you open that kind of drop down. And you'll see the input in there, the seed file. My seed.spec was added in there. Now the output. You can see it ran 2 tests using 1 worker. Now this is really cool, right? So it ran a setup test. That was the login.setup test. And then it ran the next test. It paused at the end of the test, ready for interaction. So what's going on here? So basically, I have, in order to be able to build and get to the list of movies, the movie list, you need to have logged in. So I'm using project dependencies, and I'm using a setup test to be able to log in. So that means, because I'm using project dependencies, and check out the docs for project dependencies if you don't know what I'm talking about here, because it's really, really cool. So I'm able to log in, right? The LLM is able to actually get to a logged in stage. But if you check everything, and I thoroughly checked, even though the team told me, but I thoroughly checked just to make sure, the LLM does not have access to your login. You're using process.env, etc. Means VS Code was able to run the test to get to a logged in stage, to get to the next seed. They run the seed file, which basically gets me the movies in the list. And then it kind of paused and said, right, I'm ready now. I've got the page. I'm ready to start planning and doing my work because I'm logged in. I've got those movie lists going, and I've got those 3 movies in the list. Now I'm ready to explore all these features that I need to explore. That's really, 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 really important. So setup planner you need to make sure that's working. And if you've got any kind of setup test, don't worry about kind of logins and stuff, because it's going to log in, it's going to do all that for you, and the LLM is not going to have access to your credentials. So make sure you're not putting those in, and make sure your seed file does not have login details, for example, because it is able to read the seed file, of course. So make sure that's done at the setup stage. Setup tests using project dependencies, for example, and using process.env. Security first, everybody. Okay, cool. Next up, when running the setup test, the LM does not have access to login and credentials. See, I just even put a slide just to make sure I remember to tell you all that. And again, you can see all the click calls down here. So what it did was then it went and clicked. It had a bit of problem. It ran evaluate JavaScript, try and figure out what was going on. It ran a click again, and then it navigated to URL, it navigated to another URL, it ran wait for, ran click. And then it basically seen everything that it needs to see, and it went ahead and created those the test plan. So the test plan, I'm not going to show you it now, but the test plan was basically just a long markdown file with all the tests. It's actually really, really cool. And from there, you feed that into the generator. Now you can actually stop and you can kind of say, hang on a minute, I want to go through that. I want to make sure it's all right. Maybe there's things you don't care about and you can delete it from it. Maybe there's things that you weren't covered and you can say, hey, you do this again. I don't know. But I found it very, very, very thorough. Probably way, way more tests than I could ever have imagined thinking about, to be honest. So I thought that was really cool. So then basically you call the generator agent. So you manually go down and change that. So we have planner. Don't forget to change it. Otherwise, it's going to have different tools. It's not going to do the same job. You can't ask the planner agent to generate tests because it doesn't have the tools to be able to do it. So keep that in mind. Manually go and change and add your generator agent. And then here's what I just basically said. Create a test for each of the points in section 3. So I just took, because there was a lot of things in that markdown file, I took just section 3 because I thought that was the most interesting to show in a video. And I went through it section by section. And actually, I've done all the tests for all this movie site. I didn't want to do them all in the one go because I find that's giving it too much to do. So I like to kind of break it down for it and kind of just, keep an eye and do it step by step. So that's just my opinion. But again, you do it how you want. And then I basically said save each test in its own test file. I think it works better when it's all in its own test file. It's getting better results. So I just wanted to ensure that it does that. It probably should do that anyway, but I'm just being super clear with things. And now here, look what I put again. Even though I've put it at the planner stage, I've again said use the list utilities functions to avoid duplicating steps when possible. Now, it's already in the markdown file. It's already got the links to the utility functions and stuff. So it basically knows what it needs to do. And then I basically said, and this is just me being me, I said add an agent tag to the describe block of each test file. That's just because I wanted to see the difference about the tests that were written by me and the tests that were written by the agent, so that I could always kind of, keep a check and, I don't know, just test out, is the agent doing a really good job? And if a test fails, can I blame the agent? If I've got the agent tag, then I can totally blame the agent. But what if the test's failing and it's actually my test that I wrote that fails? So I want to know what the difference is. So that was just me. But again, I find that helpful, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Cool. So basically the generator goes and runs the setup page tool. very important. The first tool it will call is the setup generator page from the Playwright Test MCP server. So make sure you've got that. And you can see in here, it actually, in the input, it actually put in the plan, but it only took section 3. Oh, and this one is section 1 that I'm showing you here, but it only took that section. It didn't take the whole plan. It takes the section that you asked for. So here's like creating the lists, and it's a little bit kind of hard to read because it's all with like, you know, stuff like that. But it's you can go ahead and you can have it just filter through it and see all the things that it's got in there and just, you know, make sure. And then you can see that it basically ran the logged in Chrome. That's my projects are the logged in Chrome tests. And it ran the seed and it says, it interrupted there and one passed, which is the, you know, the seed, the login file, and then it went to the seed file. So that's the setup page. So we're set up, we've logged in, we've ran our seed file. So just like the way the planner did it, we're ready to generate now. We're at the stage of like, this is the stage we want to start testing. So again, it runs the next tools, the page snapshot. So it takes a snapshot of the page. This is what I've got. And then it starts clicking, typing, clicking. And look at this tool then just under the click. Verify element visible. This is a really nice tool. I think I have another, we'll go into that in a second, but I'll talk about it just in case. Verifying element, it has the possibility to actually ensure that that element is on the page. So it starts to kind of write Playwright script for itself. And then it goes and verifies, is that, you know, page get by role login visible, right? And it goes and verifies, and that makes your test less flaky because it's already verifying its work before it's even written the test code. That's super cool. So here it is. This is exactly what I was talking about, right? So the accessible name, My Action Movies. The intent, verify a page title shows the new list name, My Action Movies, and the role is heading. So it ran that verify tool, and look at the result. Done. Ran Playwright code. It ran await expect page.getByRole heading name My Action Movies to be visible. Before it's written the test, it is running this code to basically verify that this actually exists. And then when it actually writes that code, that is going to pass because it's verified it. That's the cool thing. Cool. Then this is really important as well. This tool is fantastic. So once the test is complete, it retrieves the log and then it generates a test file. Now, what does that mean? It basically means it reads through a log of all the test steps that it went through before it starts writing the tests. So here we got creating a new list. It's the seed, create a list with valid details, the steps where click the user profile. So you know the way LLMs go summarizing, and it's going back and trying to think about memory, what it's actually done and trying to remember and do it all and it summarizes it and you might miss something. This has got a whole log. So it's logging everything that it should do from the test plan to actually the test calls, and then it starts writing the test code, and that's really cool. So it keeps it on track. So then it runs the write test tool calling, and basically this is your input is the actual file name here, which is create list valid detail spec, and then the code. Again, you'll see it in here. This code is a bit weird because of the way it's written for the LLM. It's not really meant for you to go and kind of study, because this is the actual code that's going to be written in your test file. But it's good to kind of like just look in there and see what's going on. And you can see there my tag, the agent tag was written in and everything. So like, yep, this looks good. This looks pretty good. And you can see await page go to, and everything looks, again, this is kind of hard to read, but this looks great. So it basically takes the input of the seed file and the code for the test. It runs the setup test and then seeds the test and then writes the test, right? So that's basically what it's doing. And you can see it's ran through and actually ran the test to make sure it passes as well. So it's not just written the test, but it's also like ran it as well. Like it's super cool. And then it will go ahead. This is really important. At the bottom there, we got great. Test 1.1 is complete. Now let me move on to test 1.2, create a private list. And then it runs the setup generator page again. So it might seem pretty slow or pretty like, oh God, it's going to have to do it again and again and again. And it does. For each test, it opens the browser and does all those actions again. And there's a reason for that. And that's because then it does a better job. So it's just like, imagine saying to a manual tester, like, go ahead and manually test the site, but only open it once and click and then remember what you did and then just like write test code. No, it's like just go through it one by one and like focus on that test, and now go and do it and focus on the next test. And that's basically what it's doing. It's focusing on one test, and then it starts again as if it's like, you know, kind of new to do it, from reading it from the test plan, of course. Cool. The next is the healer. This is my favorite agent. The healer is amazing. The healer agent is what's called after, you know, it's generated all these tests, and especially if you've generated a lot of tests. Now you can call the healer at any stage after you've generated, you know, just a couple of tests, or maybe you've gone ahead and generated 20 tests and then you go, right, now I'll call a healer. That's up to you. That's totally fine. Whatever, the healer can do it. Don't forget to change and make sure the healer is selected. So we've now got healer. Again, remember, I'm showing you this with the little icons there, but this later in the next release of Playwright will be called Playwright Test Healer or Test Healer or whatever, or Playwright Healer. And I just literally put run and fix tests, like simple as that. Just do the job, run them and fix them. So what the healer does is it runs the debug single test. So it starts off by running the test, and then it gets to a test. It might find, I didn't show this from the start, but it might show like it gets a list of the tests, or if you haven't fed the tests in, it'll just like see like what are the tests I need to run. And then it will start to run the tests, and then it will start to find the problems. And when it finds a problem, it will run the debug single test tool. That's a cool tool. It's basically running in debug mode, right? The agent is running in debug mode. That is cool. So what does that mean? It basically means it's paused at this particular moment in time of when that test is failing. It got to that stage, just like when you would manually debug something. It's now frozen at that moment, and then it's able to start running, reading the console logs, the network errors, the snapshot, and it basically starts studying and understanding what is going wrong at this particular moment in time. Now that is really, really cool. So once it's done that, then it starts to kind of like go through things. Here it ran the list of the network requests. It was trying to figure out what was going on. So I was checking my network requests, and it was like checking the API calls. You can see there's no menu item elements in the DOM. So I was like, what's going on here? Let me check the network request to see if the search API was made. Good. There was a successful API call made, but the search completed, but the drop-down structure was different from what the test expects. So let me check the actual drop-down content. Like, this is insane, right? This is really, really cool. If you actually start reading what the agent is doing, it really gives you a sense of what's going on under the hood, and it really gives you a lot more confidence in what it's actually doing. And for me, it's been like, you know, just watching this rather than looking at the browser has been gold. Just check it out. It's amazing. So it then went and checked for the console for any errors, and it got like, again, it just ran the console messages tool, and it saw there was a couple of errors in there, but that were not really important to it, like something about deprecated stuff, whatever, about Nuxt.js, that not relevant errors. So like these are no relevant errors. This is not going to affect the test. The issue is the test approach isn't compatible with how the autocomplete component works. And then it continued to go through and try and find what was going on. So it then basically runs them in multiple times, helping to ensure less flaky tests. So you can see it ran the test here. And then it ran them again and just making sure. And then all 7 tests are now passing. Let me run them one more time and make sure they're stable. So this is really cool that it keeps running them and making sure that they are there. Now the healer, this is what I really loved, and this is I probably jumped a slide, but going back to the actual error that it found with the drop down, there was an inherent application bug where the autocomplete doesn't work with programmatic text entry. I need to mark this test as fix me since I have high confidence the test is correct, but the application behavior is broken. So it updated the test, and it basically ran all the other tests again to verify both tests passed, but the fix me test being skipped. Right, fix me it comes with Playwright. You can put .fix me in your test, and then the test gets skipped, and then you can just search for all fix me tests and then go ahead and basically fix them yourself. So this is really, really, really cool because it basically means that healer agent isn't just going ahead and just getting things done and fixing things just to fix things. It's actually really making sure and doing the work, and if it can't do it, it puts it back in your hands and tells you, you've got to go fix it. So that's really important to understand and to know. when it thinks there is an application bug. And in this case, it actually was an application error, and we were able to fix that. So it was really cool. My mind was blown away by that. So this is what I do when I've got all those tests created, finished all my agent work. The agents have done all the work. What do you do now? How do you test it? How do you check it? Of course, my main thing is to commit at each stage. Make sure you're just constantly committing, so you're not losing any of the work. Just in case you wanted to, delete everything and start again or whatever, but you wanted the test before. So commit at each stage. And then obviously check the commits and stuff. But then I run my tests in UI mode. So UI mode is really, really cool because it gives you that visual visibility of basically all the tests. So let me just go back there and show that one more time. So this is my UI mode up and running. You can just run that by npx playwright test --UI. And here I've got all my tests. And you can see the way I added the tag agent. You can see that little pill there saying agent in yellow. That's basically how that went in. And I was able to filter for agents. I just wanted to run the agent tests and check them out. And then, yes, manual work here. You can manually just go in and go through each of those actions. I like to do that because I like to kind of see, did I actually add that movie in? It said it did, but I want to did I actually do it? So instead of just reading the test code, I'm actually checking the user, what the user is doing. In this case, the user is the LLM, the agent. And here it added that Twister movie, and I can see the Twister movie in there. That's exactly what I expect a user to see. So that test to me looks good. And then you can check expect there. You can see the source code in the UI mode as well. So this is a really, really cool tool to go and check on the agent's work. So I highly encourage you to use that. You could also just use the trace viewer, of course. That's another option for you. Cool. So Playwright Workspaces. This is what happens when you have thousands of tests now, because the agents are doing all the work for you. You're getting those tests up and running a hell of a lot quicker. And now you've got this problem. I've got too many tests, and how do I scale? And this is a solution for you in case you need such a solution. Playwright Workspaces allow you to basically run the browsers on the cloud. That makes it running much, much faster. So here you can run npx playwright test with 50 workers, for example, and you have the workspace there, and you can basically run those. And then what it means by running the browsers in the cloud, because the browser downloading take a hell of a long time. Well, not how long, but you know what I mean. They take a long. Whereas if you've already got the browser up and running, it's just everything in is much quicker. It doesn't have to download that each time. So that really helps, and you can have a lot more workers as well. So that's an Azure subscription that you can check out. It's separate to Playwright. It's in the Azure portal, and you can totally check that out if you need to get to that stage where you've got so many tests. So check it out. And a couple of tips from me. Again, we already talked about this, but I just want to reinforce that use headless in your MCP args to not have the browser pop up in case you want to just have them running in the background while you're getting other work done. Yes, multitasking, or just sitting having your coffee or whatever, watching Netflix. I don't know, whatever you do. So I put this in chat.tools.global.autoapprove, but I think VS Code have changed it a little bit. But check out the actual original, what the one is, to basically not have to click allow each time. So again, be careful with this one, because I only use Playwright MCP server. I don't use or Playwright Test MCP server. I don't use anything really else, but you might have other things that you maybe don't want to be giving that power to. So switch it on and off depending on what you're doing. Commit tests before using the healer. I kind of really encourage you to, commit those tests. The tests are written just before the healer starts making changes, just in case you're like, whoa, the healer did something wrong. Life isn't perfect. So it's nice to kind of say, no, that didn't look good. Let's redo that or whatever, and have that point of starting point, right? And don't generate too many tests in one go. Do it section by section from the test plan, because you don't want to give the agent too much to deal with. There's a lot in context and stuff. So just break it down into kind of, little steps, and babysitting, just baby steps. And that is kind of it. If you want to learn more, check out the documentation for Playwright Agents. It's only one page, so it's super simple. So check that out, because that will give you the line of code that you need to run to get those agents up and working. And you can watch that video that's embedded in the page, just to kind of see a short intro to how it's working, or a recap of what I just talked about today in a much shorter version. And that is it. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Really appreciate you tuning in for this talk. Anything that you want to reach out about, you can catch me on LinkedIn. Debbie.codes is my site. You can find all my links to socials there. So just that should be easy to find, Debbie.codes. And do reach out. Do let me know what you think about the agents. Everything can be improved, of course. Like let us know what's working, what's not working. This is an open source project. It's free. So just create an issue on GitHub and say, hey, this is working, this is amazing. Or just send us beautiful words and say, hey, you are all amazing. And that's it. Check out our YouTube channel. Check out my YouTube channel and Discord channel if you want to chat to the community about all things Playwright. And that's it. Highly encourage you. Now, this is a thing. Nobody has time in their life. Nobody has time. So you've got to make time. You've got to take some time out of your day. Now, I did tell you that this takes a little bit of time to run. So you need to actually just get this set up, right? Find one project and just get the generator agent running. And then just walk away for 25 minutes, come back. Maybe it only take 5 minutes. I don't know, whatever. It depends on your internet. Depends on everything. Depends on how many tests you're running or the site, etc. Go ahead and get that done. Come back, run the generator and come back. Or sit and watch it. Totally cool too. But actually give it a try. Don't just say, oh yeah, I must do that. Oh yeah, I must do that. Oh yeah, I must do that. We're working in a world where AI is moving at a pace that is way faster than we can possibly keep up with. So it's totally fine that you're not at that stage yet, but you should be using Playwright agents. They're going to help you. Do not be afraid of them. Use them and use them well and let them help you in order to make the websites better, because there's a lot of websites out there that are not working and not doing a good job. So let's improve the web. Let's improve our user experience as users. Let's get those tests written and let's use those agents to help you. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day and see you the next one.